For the rest of us, how we doing? How's the week going? Okay, so far all good. Anything bad? Anybody bad? Not as in you are bad, but anybody doing bad? Okay, well that's good to hear, I guess. Nobody is doing bad. I'm glad to hear that. But I do have a question. Let me know if you can relate to this. Let me know if this is just me or if you guys experience this sometimes too. I have a problem. The problem is I have a hard time stopping. Anybody else have a hard time stopping? Just out of curiosity. Yeah, okay, we've got a handful of folks who have a hard time stopping. And I mean stopping like anything. Like I am almost physically incapable of being still. You know this because I have never stood still while preaching on this stage in my life, right? I get my 10,000 steps in during the 10 a.m. service most weeks. But I actually mean more than that. Because when I say that I have a hard time being still, I don't just mean I have a hard time being physically still. I mean, I have a hard time being like mentally still. Know what I'm talking about? Anybody experience that? You can't mentally be still. I have a hard time being spiritually still, psychologically still, whatever other adjective you could add in front of it. The way that I like to put it is that I have a hard time being still because I am addicted to doing. I'm addicted to motion. I'm addicted to noise. I'm addicted to doing the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. It seems like just about the only thing I'm not addicted to is calm. Right? Just about the only thing I'm not addicted to is stillness, silence, rest. Anybody else have that same problem? Of course we do. How could we not? We live in a culture that worships all those things you and I are addicted to, right? We live in a culture that worships doing, worships motion, worships noise. And that is actually one of the biggest obstacles so many of us face as modern Christians living in the modern age, filled with the unique modern demands that modern society places on modern people like us. We are never allowed to just stop and be. Know what I'm talking about? We live in a day and a time where it is practically illegal to just stop everything and reflect. We live in a culture that is allergic to silence. We live in a country that is allergic to stillness. We live in an economy that is allergic to rest. We live in an age that actually actively mocks all those things and mocks you if you do those things. Know what I'm talking about? There's at least two ways that this plays out. On the one hand, you could say that we live in a busyness culture. We have, you could call it a productivity culture, right? We live in a hustle culture. We live in a grind culture. We live in a work as many hours as you can every day culture. We live in a sleep when you're dead culture. We live in a one more job culture, so many of the most popular figures and influencers and so forth online or in the media in popular culture today are part of this group. We've built a culture of bragging about how little you rest, right? We live in a culture of bragging about how little your family sees you. We have a culture, we brag about how much of the best years of our lives we give to our careers, and we actually mock the people who aren't trapped in that cycle and overcome with Stockholm Syndrome, because that's what it is, right? Because in so many cases, what happens? What happens is that people get to the end of their lives after spending all of it on busyness and say, as much as I did love being able to accomplish things and grind, at the end of the day, more than anything else, the actual thing was that I was just scared of sitting still. It was painful not to be on the move. I couldn't stand to be alone with my thoughts. That's the busyness culture that we live in. But at exactly the same time, you could also say that what we have is a distraction culture. Know what I'm talking about when I say distraction culture? They've done a bunch of polls over the past decade and a half, and they found that a pretty stunning number of us, modern Americans, live our day-to-day lives with Netflix or whatever else just kind of on in the background for as much as about 2/3 of our waking hours. Do we feel seen? The TV plays in the background while we're brushing our teeth in the morning, and it plays in the background while we're eating breakfast, and it plays in the background while we're getting the kids up, and it plays in the background while we're driving to school or work, and it plays in the background while we're working, and it plays in the background during our lunch break, and it plays in the background when we get home with our families, and it plays in the background while we fall asleep, because we've been trained to rely on constant distraction just to get ourselves through the discomfort of the day. Know what I'm talking about? But they found another thing over the past decade and a half or so. What they found is that our distraction culture is actually starting to backfire on us. They found that our distractions are starting to be the thing we need to be distracted from. Sociologists recently coined a new term they call doom scrolling. Ever heard that term? Doom scrolling. It's what they call the trend where we habitually pull out our phones every time there's a quiet moment, right? Every time we're not actively doing something. Every time we're not in the middle of a conversation, every time we're waiting in line somewhere, every time we're in the lobby at the doctor's office, every time we have a free moment of any kind. I do it too. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about us. We reach for the phone immediately, like a reflex, because we can't handle being bored or unoccupied. But then once we start, we can't get off. It's not actually a phone problem, it's an us problem, right? We start to actually get kind of stressed out because so much of what we see as we doom scroll is apocalyptic, right? We start scrolling and it's bad news, natural disasters, some new horrific injustice, some new insane political scandal that makes Watergate look like it wasn't that big of a deal, some new string of murders 2,000 miles away from us that for some reason make us scared to be in our own neighborhood, and on and on and on. Or we start doom scrolling and we get hooked in because of the fear of missing out. Your friends are on a vacation that you never even heard about, that they planned in a group text that you're not in. That feels great, right? You start doom scrolling and you see your neighbors just bought a boat. How did they afford a boat? The answer is credit card debt. That's how they afforded the boat. You start doom scrolling, you see your cousin's business is doing better than yours, and on and on and on. So now you're overwhelmed with a feeling of doom. And so you keep scrolling to distract yourself from that feeling of doom, but the feeling just keeps getting worse because the more you scroll, the more doom you see. You're stuck in a loop. Anybody ever been there? We've been joined at the hip with a perpetual distraction machine to keep us from succumbing to the overwhelming pangs of despair, and yet the distraction machine is actually pulling us deeper and deeper into despair rather than out of it. But that's the inevitable end point that our distraction culture takes us to. We could keep on listing off different examples of this all day long, but I think we all want to go home by noon, so I'll leave it there. Because whether it is the merry-go-round of constant busyness or the magnetic pull of constant distraction, the one thing basically every corner of our culture shares in common is that it is relentlessly bent toward making sure you and I never have the time, the energy, or the attention span to just stop, breathe, reflect, and listen for the Lord's voice, the Lord's presence, the Lord's warmth. We've been conditioned into a way of life that is almost surgically engineered to protect us from ever having the freedom or the willingness to say, what is going on beneath the surface of my own soul? And that's a problem because it is impossible to build a meaningful relationship with the Lord without that. Consciously, purposefully, intentionally taking some time to stop, be still, open up your soul, open up God's Word, and let His Word speak to your soul is the price of admission if you want to actually enjoy God's presence in any meaningful way. That is the ground floor that every other form of spiritual practice is built on top of. There's no version of communing with the Lord that doesn't require us to do that in the same way that there is no way to drive a car from here to Walmart without putting your key in the ignition and then turning on the engine. This is the engine. And the reason that we're talking about all of this right now is because this is the 5th week of a series we're doing called Spirituality for Normal People. We're trekking through one of the greatest treasures the Lord has ever given to us. It's a book in the Bible called the Psalms. If you've been with us for the first few weeks of this series, then you know that the heart of everything we have talked about over these past several weeks in the Psalms is really simple. It is that God is an actual person who meets us where we are in a relationship where we bring our real selves to a real God. We've circled back to this again and again over the past several weeks because this one truth breaks down so many of the walls we build between ourselves and our Father in heaven when we really let it sink down into our heads and our hearts. And so what we want to do this morning is take this one really big truth that the Psalms lay down for us and help it or let it break us out of this cycle of distracting ourselves into spiritual dryness. And the way that we're going to do that is by diving deep into the first of those spiritual practices that we introduced 2 weeks ago in this series. If you can remember 14 days ago, we dead sprinted through a whole list of spiritual practices that we can use to help kind of guide us in our time with the Lord, to get sort of the 10,000 foot view. Do you remember that? The way we put it last time was that you could almost think of these like conversation starters. It's a really cheesy way of looking at it, but it works. We've got copies of a really simple sort of devotional guide that we put together that's full of these conversation starters here at the front that you can come up and grab and use to help guide your conversations with the Lord during your own quiet time over the coming weeks. We invite you to come get one if you didn't last time. And starting today, we are digging deep into each of these conversation starters over the coming weeks. Today we're going to talk about the first one. This first one is the hardest to wrap our head around, and it's also the most important. And the reason it is so hard and so important is because this is the starting point for every other spiritual practice there is. Because when we ask the question, how do I actually spend time with the Lord? How do I actually listen for His voice through His Word? How do I actually build my relationship with Him? The Psalms answer in a whole bunch of different ways, but every single one of them ultimately boils down to some version of this. The simplest place to start is by reflecting. We ask, what's going on in my soul right now? Honestly, you can actually phrase it even more simply than that to yourself. You can ask, how am I feeling? Every other type of prayer that's out there is ultimately also a form of working through what is going on in your soul in light of His Word. So if you asked me to give you one single piece of advice on what to talk to the Lord about each day, this would be the answer I would give you. I would say just sit down, or just go for a walk, or just pull out a notebook, whatever it is, and read a little bit from the Word, and then ask, what's going on in my soul right now? And then spend however much time you have set aside just talking to Him about that. And I think the Psalms model this for us beautifully. We dead sprinted through this over like 90 seconds 2 weeks ago, but now we're going to dig into it. Let's read Psalm 139, 23 and 24 together. Are you ready? Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. See if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Now let's read Psalm 42, 5 together. Why are you in despair, O my soul? And why are you disturbed within me? Hope in God, for I shall again praise Him for the saving help of His presence. Let's break those down together. I love what the psalmist says in 139. Because he basically says, Lord, I want you to dig down into the soil of my heart and examine what you find there. He says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. He says, hold what you find there up to the light. Show me my own reflection. He says, I want you to show me what is going on inside me, because I don't really know. I want to see myself clearly. The psalmist is literally stopping and taking stock of what is going on inside himself. He's literally sitting there and reflecting on what's been happening within his own heart lately. But when he does that, it's kind of funny, because what he finds within himself is extremely messy. Know what I'm talking about? When we ask ourselves, what is going on in my soul right now? What we're doing is, instead of showing up in the Lord's presence and saying, okay, what kind of little dance can I do to impress you today? Instead, we're saying, I have come here as I am, whether it's pretty or not, and this is the condition that I'm in today. Some days that condition will be really good, right? Good things are happening. I'm really excited about the future. Things are really going my way. I can clearly see your hand at work in my life. I can really clearly see your blessings washing over me. I can really see the way that you've been protecting and preserving me, and it's beautiful. On days like that, your time with the Lord might be really praise heavy, right? It just flows naturally. But on other days, the answer to the question, what's going on in my soul right now, is going to be very different. Your time that day might be really lament heavy. There might just be a lot of crying, right? You just enter the presence of the Lord and kind of wallow in your troubles for a while. You say, I'm trusting you to fix it. That's all I've got. I love the way Psalm 42 models this. The psalmist says, what I'm feeling right now is despair. Did you notice that? Despair is what is going on in my soul right now. I can relate to this one because despair is one of the pitfalls I constantly have to be on guard against. There's something for everybody. Maybe you can relate to that one too, but Psalm 42 says, my soul is disturbed within me. What I am right now is not okay. I do not feel the hope that I know I technically should feel, right? I reach for the hope and it's not there. I don't feel the praise reflex that I would feel if I was seeing clearly right now. The praise that comes from truly seeing the unshakable hope that comes from the promises of the Lord, the presence of the Lord, the goodness of the Lord poured out onto me by His grace and generosity. It's just not there. I can't access it. I don't feel it. I've lost the ability to even really remember what it felt like. I can shout at myself, hope in God, but it moves nothing. I can think back to the saving help that He's given to me again and again and again. And right now, it doesn't move me. That is what is going on in my soul right now. I'm in despair. It's not how I want to feel, but it's how I do feel. It's a choice my emotions made for me, and now I just have to live in it for however long it lasts. So he says, Lord, this is what I have. soul, why are you downcast? You can hear the desperation. He says, this is what's going on inside of me, and I don't have the power to change it. But I'm bringing it to you. And I need you to replenish the hope I don't have right now. I need you to fill me back up with the praise that is just not in me right now. I need you to empower me to hope in you when I feel hopeless. I need you to fill me with your praises through your presence. That is the only hope I have to come out of this spiral. Some days, your time with the Lord is going to be 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of that, and then it's over. Other days, it'll be even worse. Other days, you're overwhelmed by the burden of your own sin. Know what I'm talking about? Yes. Psalm 139 says, see if there is any grievous way in me. He's saying, which of the places in my heart have I just kind of drifted into rebellion or disobedience? Where have I started placing my loyalty in other things instead of you? Where have I started valuing other things over you? Where have my attitudes drifted into ungodly attitudes that grieve you? Where's my lifestyle drifted into an un-Christ-like lifestyle that dishonors you? Where have my habits become worldly and me-centered rather than Christ-exalting and God-centered? On some days, you've seen your reflection, and at this particular moment, it's not good. You've been drifting into worshiping your will and your way instead of His will and His way, following yourself instead of following Jesus, chasing your idols instead of chasing Him. And all you have is, have mercy on me, a sinner. Right? Forgive me for the ways that I've grieved you, the ways that I've harmed myself, the ways that I've wronged you, the ways that I've wronged others. Set me free from these broken patterns that dishonor you. All you have is, I've been walking the wrong way. The fruit of my life makes that abundantly clear, but I want to walk a different way. I want to walk your way. Please show me the way out of this. Some days, that might be it. And some days, you enter His presence and all you've got is your confusion. Psalm 139 says, try me and know my thoughts. In other words, take the things that are swirling around inside my mind and my heart and set them down on the scales. Show me which ones hold weight. Which ones are empty? Which of the things raging within me are true? Which ones are illusions? Which ones are life-giving? Which ones are choking me to death? On some days, all you have is, what's going on in my soul right now is that I have no idea what to do. I don't know how to fix these things that are broken in front of me. I don't know how to fix my family. I don't know how to fix my job. I don't know how to fix my finances. I don't know how to fix my anxiousness. I don't know how to fix my anger. I don't know how to fix the way I keep on chasing everybody in my life away. I'm at a total loss. I need you, but I don't even know what to ask for. Some days, that's all you'll have. The way I like to put it is just let your thoughts and feelings be what they are. And let God be the one to deal with them. That means that when you show up for your time with the Lord today, if your heart feels drawn to praise Him, then reflect on how your heart feels drawn to praise Him. When you show up for your time with the Lord tomorrow, if your heart feels distant from Him, reflect on how your heart feels distant from Him. When you show up for your time with the Lord the next day, if your heart feels weighed down by guilt or shame, then reflect on how your heart feels weighed down by guilt or shame. When you show up for your time with the Lord the next day, if your heart feels paralyzed by confusion, then reflect on how your heart feels paralyzed by confusion. There's no wrong way to do this. There's no test. There's no grader. There's no passing or failing because there's no performing involved. Because the point here is not to impress God, live up to God's standards, live or talk to God the right way or be the right kind of Christian or have the right kind of prayer life, have the kind of prayer time, have the right kind of quiet time, say the right words, make the right requests, apologize for the right things, thank Him for the right things. No, the point of all of this is just to bring whatever is in you, wherever you are, however you are, whatever you have to the Lord and let Him minister to you within it. That's it. And as weird as all of this sounds, you can do this. As hard as all of this sounds, you can do this. And the reason you can do this is actually really simple. We see why when we look back at Psalm 42 again. Because in Psalm 42, he uses a really important phrase. He says, "The saving help of your presence." I'm going to go backwards. I guess I'm not going to go backwards. Never mind, my battery's dead. But when he says, "The saving help of your presence," what he's saying is, I can have a permanent hope with you, despite the fact that I don't feel any temporary hope right now, because the source of my life with you is not my ability to draw up the right emotions at the right time. The source of my life with you is not my ability to praise you when it hurts. The source of my life with you is not my ability to praise you when it's scary or when it's hard. The source of my life with you is you. It's your saving help. He says the saving help of your presence has purchased a life for me. It has purchased a life with you, regardless of how I feel at any given moment. He says, because of your saving help, I can just come to you. I can just be with you. I can just pour my heart out to you. I can just spill out my soul to you. I can just feel what I feel with you, feel what I feel toward you, feel what I feel in your presence, and you will listen to every last bit of it, patiently walk with me through all of it, and lovingly restore me by the healing gift of your presence. So when we ask, what's going on in my soul right now, what we're doing is we are consciously deciding to trust the saving help of His presence rather than trust the quality of our performance. My clicker is dead. Can you skip 2 slides forward? And when we do that, what happens is that we are being knit together with Him, closer and closer and closer with each passing day. Each time we bring Him all of what is inside us, regardless of how it looks or how it feels or how it sounds or how it seems, each time we give ourselves to Him exactly the way that we are and let Him do whatever He determines is best. Every time we vomit out the contents of our souls at the foot of His throne, He is drawing us closer. He is growing us in godliness. He is speaking to us through it. All we have to do is clear out some time this week. Open up His Word and read a little bit, and then start the conversation by asking, what is going on in my soul right now? And then spend however long you need talking to Him about that. And if you are ready to do that, then I want to invite you to take those next steps this morning. If you would, please go one more slide forward for me. Whether God is moving you right now to give your life to Him and be saved, or to make a public profession of faith and be baptized, or to take the next step of faithfulness by joining the church as a member, or take the next step of obedience by finding a place to serve on God's mission here, I want to invite you to take a really small but really bold next step in one of 3 ways. As we sing together in just a moment, I want to invite you to come down the aisle and pray about it with me up here. But if coming down the aisle makes your blood run cold, then instead I want you to come meet me here in the sanctuary after the service is over in just a moment. But if you can't stick around and talk after the service either, then instead I want to invite you to text the number up on the screen or scan the QR code, and we can start a conversation about it. Whatever it looks like for you this morning, take that next step of faith, and we can talk or pray through whatever the Lord has laid on your heart this morning. Now, I invite you to stand with me, and as we respond in worship through song, the altar is open.